My name is Lolo Puzzlo, and this is Media Delta. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Media Delta. We are breaking new ground today, because it is finally time for us to tackle a genre that, especially since a lot of the games that we play on Retro and Crapsy, and then by chain of events we end up covering on the show, came out of Japan. There is a very particular genre of Japanese television show that gets video games a lot, especially since there is a subset of them that are also popular over here. I am, of course, talking about the tokusatsu genre, which I feel like I should run through a few definitions beforehand, because I feel like it's something that's a little bit, maybe not confusing is the right word, but something that I feel, including me, mind you, I actually did not realize that this until like about an hour ago when I looked it up. But tokusatsu usually gets associated with stuff like Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and like the superhero stuff, like Power Rangers and Kamen Rider. But tokusatsu itself is actually, I believe in Japanese, refers to as special production. It is a particular type of, not even television show, I guess you can also count movies in it as well. It is a production that is incredibly heavy in special effects. So stuff like Godzilla also counts in this as well. And also just the show that we were talking about does not belong in this, but just to clarify this particular term, because it's probably one of the more famous of the Toku stuff, Sentai. The word Sentai usually comes up, especially a lot of, like, I think No More Heroes, it kind of comes up, and it occasionally has come up in more recent things. Sentai just refers to as squad or group.
Squad, team. It comes from a military term, so squad would probably be the best translation.
Yeah, it is specifically talking about a group of people, usually like 5 people or more. Which is why Super Sentai, you got Power Rangers, which usually has 5 of them in a team, and I think does all of them have 5, or there's some of 4?
It depends on the season. Some have 5, some have 4, some go to 3+2. The one we've had the most at one point is 11 at one point.
Huh.
But you probably should introduce us.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to introduce the show first, because we are talking about one that actually, because a lot of it, if you think about stuff like Power Rangers, is probably the most popular example of a show that originally in Japan, that being, I forgot what the full thing was, but I know the Ranger Party is Z Ranger, came over here as Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which was a Super Sentai. This one did not leave Japan at all, I believe, because you get these weird cases like this. So the show that we're talking about today is Tokyuu Shirei Solbrain, which is actually the second series of a trilogy referred to as the Rescue Hero trilogy. The first one in this series is Tokyuu Windspectre, which if I remember correctly, had a huge popularity in France.
Yes. And then I think the third part of the trilogy had a big popularity in Germany, surprisingly enough.
Yeah. So the reason why we're talking about Tokyuu Shirei Solbrain, which usually just gets referred to as like translates roughly into Special Rescue Command Solbrain, but the show refers to it as Super Rescue Solbrain in the little half, mid episode little interstitial thing.
Just fucking call it Solbrain.
Yeah, we're just going to refer to it as Solbrain. The reason we're talking about Solbrain is because in the more that I watched it, the more this really baffled me. The NES game Shatterhand, the game that came over here as Shatterhand, came out in Japan based off this TV show, which I'm wondering if Shatterhand was the original and just got transplanted into that show, because that game has nothing to do with this. But yes, I, as you can tell, was not the only one who watched this. So please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Max, and I'm burning.
Hi, I'm Carnival, and we've hit my genre.
Hi, I'm Torpid Typist, and I'm here for daddy issues.
Yeah. So I my only familiarity with Tokusatsu was really watching Power Rangers when I was a child. I was not super into watching it later, so this is pretty new territory for me. Um, this show is interesting, to say the least. A brief kind of overview of what this is the Solbrain in this show is a police agency, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, like equivalent of like a super high tech SWAT team.
Yeah.
They
So-
seem more geared for rescue.
Yeah, they're more focused towards rescue, but it's the kind of they do whatever the hell they need to.
Whatever the plot demands, they can do.
There are in fact two main people in it. There's actually technically four. There is Daiki, who is the dude, I guess. You could kind of call him the protagonist. He's the guy who is like usually first on the scene. His thing, because this is it's not, I was almost about to say Sentai, but it is a transformation show. Although transformations may be a weird word for it, because his thing is that he will occasionally go into his police car that has gull wings, that just basically looks like a really weird police car. And he can turn into the Soul Braver, which is basically a giant blue suit of armor that has, I would say, various tools, but it basically was
They're
like
all weapons.
they're pretty much all weapons, and it's the Batman school of whatever the hell you need at the moment.
Except they're all weapons, so like they're kind of useless in the rescue situations that happen, which is always hilarious.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's the grappling hook that still is kind of useless. But
Only sometimes works.
It usually makes him eat shit in the process.
Pretty much. I mean,
There's a
I enjoy that they have to go into the car to transform.
yeah, it's yeah.
He also really fucking likes cycling.
Yeah. I mean, it's Tokyo. I wonder if there is a big boom of cycling in Japan at that point. Yeah, also it's great. Now that I'm thinking about it, it'd be really weird to get I don't know if you've ever tried to change clothes in a car before. It is not an easy feat.
It's fine, they just transform.
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, they transform. The other, Daiki's partner, Reiko, she's actually the more practical of the two, and actually the one who usually solves things more. She does the same thing essentially. She turns into Soul Jean. For some, I don't know why it's called the Soul Jean.
Fucking.
It
Japan
sounds
has a
exotic.
weird obsession with that, though.
Yeah, but basically she's like the Soul Braver, except if her tools actually did shit. Like she has
Also, she gets to go in a fucking windowless panel van to transform.
yeah, it's weird.
Like he gets a nice sort of modern car, and she gets a fucking windowless panel van.
Yeah. There's also Soul Dozer, which is the robot friend.
Remember that time we wanted to fuck a car?
Yeah, he wants to bone that car.
It's a murder car.
Yes.
we'll get there.
There's the third guy whose name I forgot, but he kind of just shows up and does stuff.
Yeah,
Wait,
the third guy was the protagonist from the previous show. So
Well,
that's
not even that guy. The other guy that was always plain clothes.
Oh, right, the plainclothes guy. I thought you were talking
Yeah.
about the other transforming person.
So, what I enjoyed about the plainclothes guy, which was great, is that during the credit sequence, it ends with the fucking robot hurling him down some stairs. And it just freeze frames.
Yeah, June is his name. But yeah, it is basically they usually come within what the main bad thing of the episode is within the first 2 minutes. And then they do not we'll talk about it when we get through our impressions, but the show does not waste your time.
The show's fucking breakneck. It helps that it's episodic and only has 30 minutes to get through its entire plot, but
I'd say it's like 20.
It's like 20 because of commercials, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think before we kind of get further in, we probably just
forgot
give
the boss.
base. There is the boss who also was the boss from the previous from Winspector, Shinsuke, who's like hyper competent dude, also dressed up like always like. I don't know if he's ever seen not in that uniform, but
Also, yeah, he's always like dressed to the nines in his full uniform, looking like he's the higher up, and also he has a fucking gun.
I mean, they all have guns, but he also very much has gun.
Like just a normal fucking gun.
Anyway, I think before we kind of prattle on a little bit more, we should probably go through our general impressions. Also, actually, before I say that, I should say this is, in fact, a full TV series, so we did not watch every episode of this. By God, there are 53 episodes of the show. To list the ones that we watched for this particular segment was Tokyuu Sky's SOS, which is episode 1. Episode 4, which is the game software of dreams. This is taken from the Metal Heroes wiki. Translations seem to vary depending upon who subtitles it.
Yes, welcome to Toku subs.
Episode 14, which is the Love Calling Bullet. Episode 30, which is God is Painful.
Yeah, that's right.
Episode 31, which is She is a Dream Future Car, which also the version that we watched also called it My Girlfriend is a Car or something like that.
My girlfriend's like a high-tech car or something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Episode 37, which is The Sad Hitman.
God.
So, but you were a sad hitman.
God.
I'm a hitman, but I'm depressed.
I should.
You poor hitman.
The one episode that was requested by Carnival, and we'll go over why.
Yes, we'll go over that.
But yes, those are the episodes that we watched for this particular group of episodes. So
I do want to just mention quick. Could you mention the preview at the end of the last episode that we watched?
Yeah, so which goes into episode 38, which is definitely going to be one we're talking about next week or next session. Which is seemingly about, it's very Nazi-ish. Like it just starts off with this woman in full leather giving Heil Hitler. It's interesting.
It's a trip. Like this, there's no better way to describe. We'll get to it next time we record.
Yeah. Yes. So those are the episodes that we watch if you are wanting to follow along. So I think we should probably just, get into general impressions. So X, what did you think of Tokyuu Shirei's Solbrain?
All right. Well, much like you, my exposure to the entire Toku genre was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So I kind of went into this with a similar expectation. It was going to be like a couple of people who suit up whenever danger appears and they go fight like big monsters or, the baddie of the week kind of thing. This is nothing like that at all. It's a lot more mundane. There's still some out of the world kind of stuff, like the one episode they had a virtual reality machine that turned people into vegetables after being used. I forget how that episode ended because this has been a tough week for me, so I only kind of got a few episodes in.
So that episode was great because the ending of it was it ends up that in the Solbraver costume, I heard his name was Daiki. I keep wanting to call him Daisuke, but that's not his name. Daiki, wearing the Solbraver, puts on a VR headset, which puts him in as the Solbraver into the thing. And then they get, he talks to someone outside the thing. He's like, bro, remember, it's a game, so you can only get out if you beat the bad guy or if you game over. So it gets it. So he realizes, oh, okay, kids, come all grab together. We're gonna jump off this building to cause a game over.
So I mean, it gets a little farcical, but at the same time, there's a degree of like mundanity to it. Like the last episode that I watched before we did this broadcast is it was episode 14. I forget the title of it.
I think that one's the love calling bullet.
Yeah, something like that.
And that one stood out the most, partially because it was the last thing I watched, but also because of just kind of how fucked up that episode really was when I think about it. The plot is there's a policeman who everybody seems to love, and he knows this kid who's kind of like a criminal, but he's trying to get the kid to not be a criminal. But anyway, the kid decides that he's going to go kill his dad, and the cop doesn't shoot him, and everybody, including the entire Solbrain team, gets fucking mad at him for not shooting this guy. Like,
How dare
fucking
you.
furious with him. No, they were
Dare
practically saying, "How dare you not shoot him?"
Yeah, like
How
if a
dare
person-
you not shoot your child?
Look, again, this is congratulations. They're cops.
Yeah, it's the perfect ACAB thing, and it's just like these are supposed to be the whole Solbrain team's supposed to be like the really big heroes, and they're getting on this guy for not just straight up offing this dude because he had a gun. And so the rest of the episode follows them kind of bumbling behind this guy, and the only way they find him is a random citizen recognizes the dude and goes up to them and says, "Hey, I know where he is." So they go there, and before the three of them could do anything, the cop appears and shoots the guy, and they all applaud him and call him the best cop in fucking Japan.
it's
fucking nuts.
So you know,
And we gotta talk about the situation with his kid too.
Yeah, like the kid's even pissed at the dad because the dad couldn't shoot a guy, so he calls him a coward. Jesus Christ.
So I think like the context for why they're getting particularly mad is because he was keeping that the relationship that he had with that particular kid secret. So they're like, "Oh, I was just afraid. That's why I didn't shoot." But then it's like, "Oh no." It was like, I knew that kid. The entire chain of events is fascinating, and it happens in like less than a minute. It starts out that it's like, oh, I ran to this kid who was causing trouble because his parents were arguing, getting a divorce. And then I was like, oh no. Then they talk to the kid, and he goes back home, and the parents end up reconciling. Then about 5 seconds later, he grows up, and he goes back to the policeman. And he's like, I'm angry at my dad because, or they ended up, so actually, and then it's like 5 seconds later, they end up actually divorcing later. The problem is that like in the next sentence, like he got divorced, and then it turns out that the mom ended up getting cancer and dying from it. And the kid comes up to the police officer and yells, I hate my dad because he caused my mom to die. And then this happens like just like you don't get any breathing room between it, and it is kind of fascinating.
And that's kind of the pacing of the show, at least from the episodes we saw, is that it doesn't let up on you. Once that intro stops, and the intro is, I like the intro. I enjoy it. I like the song. And it's kind of it's a slow kind of song, in a way. Like, it doesn't have the same pacing as the rest of the show, because once it's done, it's just bam, 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 plot, action, events, stuff happening, and it just doesn't let up until the end of the episode.
It's especially great because the episode that we watched after that, which is 30, which is God is Painful, so the general plot of that episode is that it starts off with two random schlubs who are going through a lab of some sort, and one of them traps himself into this weird like chamber and gets a suit of armor kind of grafted onto him, which is basically a diving suit, which gives him like superpowers. So he's like, he finally realized like, oh, I have super strength.
It's not grafted, it's he just can't undo it from the inside.
Yeah.
It's a classic trope of puts on outfit won't come off for arbitrary reasons.
They had to swipe their sick ass card.
Yeah. But the thing was so the events that like he realized, oh, I'm super strong. I'm just gonna go run around. So he's walking around, he sees a little girl about to get isekai'd, like straight up with Truck-kun coming and just about to run her over, but he like stops the truck. Then immediately after that happens, the girl's grandfather comes into takes it in, you see it 5 seconds later, he's in the house, and gets 30 billion yen as a reward. That takes 10 seconds. The next scene over, you just see right. But the literal next scene, slash cut to a family in a forest, all with 3 nooses about to kill themselves, and you don't know why.
Including their child. They have a young child who's also got his own noose and is about to jump because of debt.
It's just you don't
10 million yen of debt.
Yeah. It's just
the show is so odd because it feels like I said, I don't know if it's the right word. I don't know, maybe y'all have a better word for it, but I just feel like there's this mundanity about it that makes it so much more interesting than what I thought it was going to be. Because these 3 characters, one of them I've never seen outside of the suit. He's got that power loader, the yellow suit.
He's a robot. That is him.
Oh, okay, it's a robot. All right.
We just didn't watch the episode he premiered in. So.
Okay. But the other 2 are kind of regular people who can jump into their cars and transform into a superhero cop, basically. So when you have something like that, you're kind of expecting super villains or super situations that require that kind of tech or ability. But it's none of that, ever. There's almost never a need for those outfits, for the suits rather, because everything seems to kind of resolve itself.
If you are familiar with the caliber of villain that you see in an episode of the A-Team, you are familiar with the caliber of villains that are in this show.
Yeah,
Sometimes there are some other villains.
Literally.
Oh, right. I was going to say okay. There are some. Yes.
That's
Go ahead.
Saying.
No, I mean, we've only watched 6, 7 episodes of the series, so clearly we're not plumbing the depths that this series has to offer. But what we had on offer was a lot of regular scenarios that really didn't what's the word? Didn't really call for a superhero team, because going back to episode 14 again, the superhero team didn't resolve the conflict. The cop did. So they didn't need the superhero team at all.
Yeah.
Oh no, they judged the cop, which spurred him into action.
I was going to say, they needed the people to eat the 17 bajillion sticks of dynamite that guy had.
But it's interesting because, like I said as I started off, I was expecting monsters. I was expecting super villains. I was expecting, super out of the ordinary stuff. And just what it offered, at least in these episodes, was interesting. I don't think I'd go ahead and watch it on the side like Slayers or what was the other show that I really liked?
Moomin.
Moomin, yeah. It's not like Slayers or Moomin where I actually felt like, yeah, you know what? I could put this on and watch it through outside of Media Delta. I really don't think I'd come back to this. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, on the other hand.
I will say, this is a show that fucking demands your attention.
It does.
Yeah.
Not even just because it's subtitled, but you gotta pay attention to what's going on because it'll go like that.
Also, let's not forget that the cop who shoots the guy, it's just important to note, shoots his hand that is holding the dynamite.
And this is the same cop who was shot not once, but twice. Once in the arm, once in the leg by the guy he's shooting at.
Yeah.
He's not a good cop at all.
So I'd like to make a point here is part of the reason that we have the kind of mundanity is that the Metal Heroes, especially the Rescue Heroes trilogy, were not shows that were as directly serialized as its counterparts it's Toei's other shows, either Kamen Rider or Super Sentai. Ultraman's a different beast, and we'll get there when we do an Ultraman. But like important part to realize is that this is Toei. Toei is one thing, and it's always been one thing.
Hey.
Toei is fucking cheap.
We got to see their quarry, damn it, and
Yep.
their warehouse multiple times.
That quarry and that warehouse are the same ones they use to this very day in the currently running Kamen Rider, Saber, and oh god, I'm forgetting the full name, but the currently running Sentai.
And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not criticizing it. I actually kind of enjoyed it. Like, I did definitely enjoy the absurdity of just everything, because just the entire mixture of the show just feels weird. And the situations they find themselves in don't call for the measures that they deploy. So it's just a really weird, interesting show to me. And that's what I've got to say about it.
All right, then Carnival.
So I'm the resident Toku fan here. So I originally got it because my cousin showed me Power Rangers when it was running. So I've been off and on following Power Rangers to a degree, but I only recently, like an undergrad, was able to get around to like actually acquiring some of the stuff from Japan. And it's just been nice to see just how things go back and forth. So here's a little bit of a kind of a thing on the production of these shows. These are done one episode a week, basically for an entire year. So that plays an important part about how these are written. It does across the entire genre, because based on characters getting more popular than the writers expect, will cause them to change things mid-script and do things that are like any kind of accidents or recording. They will do things that are like, oh, we need to make changes now, very fast. So this means that you get sort of like, that's part of the reason why episode 37 is written like it was, because the Rodney King riots just happened. But like Solbrain was great, enjoyable, just because it's like, yeah, this is what I come to expect from when I come to watch a Toku show. Some kind of absurd reasoning of just, here we go, and pacing that's going to just, we only got 20 minutes. We gotta go. We don't have time to waste. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
I feel like also, especially since you brought it up, speaking of episode 37, and Toei being cheap and maybe not, say, hiring actors that maybe they should. You want to explain why you picked episode 37?
Oh yeah, episode 37. The focus character of the week is a hitman who is an ex-NYPD officer who was fired because he stopped other police officers from beating a black man. Now, because it's in Japan in the 90s, that black man was actually a Japanese dude in blackface.
Yes.
It was really good.
And I don't mean like it is not even like they just painted his head and arms. They didn't even. You can see when he's like over and reaching over where they stopped putting the paint on.
It was interesting. Like, again, that is, if you blink, you miss it. That scene lasts 5 seconds, and it's quite something.
Which,
Also,
let me point out, the first time I've ever actually seen a black person in Toku didn't happen to. Let me find the exact series and year. The 42nd Super Sentai, which ran from 2018 to 2019. Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger. That was the first time I've seen a black person in any kind of Toku, really. Let me put that, well, at least in Sentai. Let me be clear for that one. Because normally if the people are, they're either Japanese American, Japanese, or Japanese Brazilian. Which this guy's a Nigerian guy, comedian, that was in a position of authority. Which was also like, huh.
That use of blackface actually kind of reminds me of another Japanese show that I used to watch, and I stopped because of this. Gaki no Sukai.
That happened, what, like 3 years ago?
I think, for those who don't know, Gaki no Sukai is part of a show, I think it's called Downtown.
So the full thing, if I remember correctly, is Downtown no Gaki no Sukai, because it's tied to them. It's one of the two actually is gaining a lot of popularity over here because of his show Documental, which is, I think it's Hitoshi Matsumoto. So I believe the other guy's name is Hamada. I forgot what his full name was.
But yeah, so it's part of a show that's mostly a lot of sketch comedy and stuff. But they have an annual thing called Batsu, where it's basically they go to a location, they have to do a bunch of stuff. Stuff happens to them, and if they laugh, they get beaten in some way. So like 1 year the theme was cops, and Hamada went as Axel Foley from the Beverly Hills Cop series and went in full blackface. So that's the relation I had.
Yeah, that one was like 3 years ago. I remember like it was way too recent for that shit to fly. But
I stopped watching it because of that.
There's a bad Japan has bad problems with blackface.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Regardless.
But like more conclusions like, this was exactly what the kind of thing I was expecting going in. I expected to be much worse and a more campy thing, but it's like I was kind of surprised how many of the episodes were like I felt genuinely compelling in terms of just on the merits of their own and not just this is wild. Like episode 14, I call it a standout of just like, like this was actually a compelling episode. That it was just like I wouldn't expect anything like this. Honestly, I don't think with the basic plot of that show, that episode wouldn't even fly in an American show, especially in today's like climate.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up about this?
No, I'll wait for some other more specific stuff.
All right. In that case, Torpo.
I mean, it was a lot of fun. Very stupid, but a lot of fun. Okay, so first off, we never mentioned that Solbrain has this sweet fucking worthless visor that pops out of his chest and that he looks into by leaning over.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And he uses it for the most mundane bullshit, and it's great. But, in general, it's like varying levels of like stupid, mundane to exceptionally stupid. Like, y'all apparently forgot the first fucking episode.
I did.
Which was a giant machine flying over Tokyo, breaking shit. And lo and behold, it was piloted by a fucking AI that just wanted to fuck shit up. And the people who developed the AI like, we'll just let it do whatever it wants. And
not like the people. The head scientist that was like, yes, no sacrifice is too much for the progress.
And as he's saying that, his kid is there, and his kid asks him to stop, and he's like, no. And then the AI just goes, hey, I want to become perfect. I need a human body. Give me your kid. And the scientist is like, anything for progress.
Oh, yeah,
so
now
he
I'm remembering.
straps his kid into a fucking chair to get his brain removed. That was the first episode.
How I remember that. That whole scene was fucking wild.
In just the scene with the robots just the little UFO in the city was great because it was like Blues Brothers level, just gratuitous cars blowing up for no reason.
Yeah, they fucking nonstop were trashing cars. It was amazing.
And like the AI was like a crystallized brain that would turn into an actual brain.
Yeah, it's like a Star Fox, and SNES brain.
Like there were like fucking like a dozen cars trashed in that first episode. It was great. Like you had police cars flipping over each other. Everything was on its head. Shit exploding constantly. It was great.
I mean, that's how you start off. You go all in.
Yeah, you trash every car in the lot. God, it wasn't a few episodes later until we saw the quarry though. The fucking Toei quarry. Oh.
Good old quarry.
They have a quarry. Like, legitimately, there's a quarry that Toei always shoots at for, like, some of their outdoor shit, and it's amazing.
They should have it listed as a historical site.
Fucking at this point, yeah.
Who's to say they don't? Let's be real. Like, I'm sure they do, like, when we're not, well, I don't know, because they're basically shooting, like I said, they make an episode a week, so they're, like, shooting all the time.
But it's great, because, like, also the episodes that Lolo chose, just so happened to pretty much all be about daddy issues, and it was great. Like the first one was the scientist and his kid, and then like the second one we watched was basically, oh shit, my dad made a deal with the mob. But actually it wasn't his fault. It was somebody else's fault, and he just got caught up in it, so I respect him again. Or just like that. Hell, even the car episode was about daddy issues, because the car's dad got murdered, so she went on a murder spree.
She
The
wanted
car-
revenge.
Okay, I looked it up, and it's Yori Dae Kogyu is the quarry.
Huh.
What were you gonna say, Lolo?
Yeah, the murder car, which was great. The murder car, which Soul Toaster wanted to bone.
And like one of the few that wasn't directly about daddy issues was the dude who wanted to be God, but even that one had the family because of debt attempting suicide together.
It also like his brother like getting him to do like criminal stuff with it, and then the cult gets involved, which was an actual legitimate cult.
Run by the Yakuza.
Yes.
It was good. My point is, this show it just really likes tackling daddy issues for some reason, and it's kind of great. But just y'all called it mundane, but like mundane is doing a disservice because it's like fucking insanity within the mundane.
Yeah, it's yeah, like there I think there is like a term, but it's escaping me also.
This is the world that they live in. This is normal to them. It's just that it looks so absurd because we only are peering into what is a daily occurrence to them, which is that's the best way to sell it. That's the best way to sell Toku, is that every year some different type of monster attacks some random Japanese city, and a squad of people or a few random people end up
Very poorly trained too.
That's just life in Japan in the Toku world. There's a bunch of property damage, and every year it's somebody else's problem.
It was fun though. Like, would I ever go out of my way to watch it? Probably not, but it was fun, and I guess that's it. I do wish the main characters had more personality, because they are basically there to move the plot along.
Yeah.
They're both kind of the same person, anyway.
Yeah.
They're interchangeable completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have you know, Solbrain really likes to cycle. Like, he really loves that bicycle. Holy shit! Like every other episode is about him cycling. But yes,
Yeah.
that's all I need to say for now.
My general thoughts, like don't get me wrong, I don't think the show is quote unquote good, but it's good in the sense that it is incredibly fun to watch. Because it is just absolutely ridiculous, as we kind of mentioned. Just stuff like it's breakneck pace, and just stuff happens. And it doesn't
Absolutely
happen
ridiculous on a budget.
Yes, it is very much on a budget.
It's like part of the fun to me is how budget it fucking is. Like, I think at one point I was joking about like the very obvious model cities they would just fucking trash.
Yeah, no, that's probably the biggest draw that Ultraman has compared to anything else, is that those models that they pull off are like some of the best. Though
A shame that Ultraman's boring.
I fight you on this. There are a few good ones, but it's like overall, like I can't. It's like it's
There
fun
are
to
a few-
watch my dad.
There are a few good ones, none of which we have played games based on. In fact, the ones we have played games based on are the ones that people don't like.
But yes, moving on.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it's kind of dumb fun, but yes. So yeah, did anyone have any last thoughts? At least for this.
I do.
Uh-huh.
What's wrong with you?
Oh, right.
You can't. You put the entire series up on YouTube and only put subtitles on the first 2 episodes.
Yeah,
What's wrong with you?
That was an ordeal, because my general ethos for this is I generally don't like to pirate stuff for this. However, if you don't, if you put it on YouTube and say, "Hey, we have the entire series on YouTube," and I see that there's subtitles on the first two, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this shouldn't be the entirety because why would you just do the first two?" I will break that ethos and just find it elsewhere.
Yeah.
God, bloody John Toei. God, like at the very least, when you don't do that with Kamen Rider, you don't put up the rest of the series. But no, Solbrain and several other shows are up there. Especially on that channel is designed to increase interest in the worldwide with your shows and properties. Then why do you not have subtitles on there? I will not let this rest.
Hasn't it been kind of an issue getting more Toku over stateside? Because I remember something like about it being like, really difficult to kind of get like people were really pushing for Toei to bring this stuff, bring more of the stuff over. Like
there are two people I blame for this: Haim Saban, my mortal foe, and Hasbro. Haim Saban, because he bought up the rights to various shows such as Power Rangers, Kamen Rider, various Metal Heroes, which are the larger franchise that Solbrain is in, so he can cut them up to do like what he did with Power Rangers and such, VR Troopers, the Mask Rider, and because of such, he deliberately made it very hard for the people to get the original Sentais over here. This lapsed as Saban and Entertainment lapsed in the power, but then because Shout Factory is, if you want to buy the stuff, go buy Shout Factory. Their subs are not always the greatest, but they do good work of just getting the stuff over here. Now, Hasbro, for whatever reason, has decided to, not only because they have purchase of the Power Rangers brand and IP now, but for whatever reason, they said, no, we're not gonna. They're about to end their deal with Toei, and have just told Shout Factory, no, don't bring over any of the Super Sentai for some goddamn reason. Never mind that it's not gonna. The average child these shows are marketed for their toy commercials are not gonna be going out of their way to see the original Japanese. So there's no reason why Shout Factory bringing over subtitles is gonna cut into their market. I am very angry about this.
I'm angry about Toku.
Yes.
Can't cut back the funding on Toku. You will regret this.
I mean, what I saw does kind of make me interested to see more of the stuff. And again, it kind of brings me back to growing up on Power Rangers and seeing the Sentai stuff of that era and having all that mashed. I was surprised, actually, when I learned that the show was a number of shows mashed together, and how how the series progressed was just taking from other shows and mashing them together. But something like this does make me a little more interested in looking at Toku material.
Well, I guess it sucks to be you then.
I mean,
Yeah,
let's
to find at least.
But also,
They're
I'm
always-
extremely lazy, and it's very difficult, so I don't want to do it.
That is also fair.
That's because Ultraman is actually like on YouTube. They do put all their subs of their stuff, even the newest running show, because apparently they're smarter. They're smarter about like Subas. I can't remember the name of the company, but the Ultraman people.
Subiara,
Yeah,
I believe.
Subiara. After they got the rights back from America, from the American company they licensed to, like a year or two ago, have basically just started putting their stuff up there. Hey, Americans, you want to watch? That's why we got Gridman and its sequel that I need to watch. That
I need to watch the sequel too, because goddamn, that Gridman was real fucking good.
Gridman really rules. But it's just like Subaya's. What's the name again? Well, I'm messing up.
Let me actually get the
Rihanna?
full. What was that?
Subiana?
Maybe. Let me check.
So is that SSS Gridman?
Quadruple S Gridman.
So it is. Was it Subaraya, I believe.
Riot Productions. Like, I may have problems with a bunch of their Ultraman series, but at least they're doing the work of bringing it over here. So they get that kind of thumbs up from me. Angry about Toku.
Yeah. All right. Did anyone have any other last
I like
things
the
you want to
quarry.
talk? What was that?
I like the quarry.
The quarry. It's
Okay,
a
but
very
what
good
about the
quarry.
warehouse?
The
The
warehouse.
warehouse is good, but the quarry's just got that little something.
Because they use that fucking warehouse a lot when we were watching.
They use that a lot now.
Yeah.
Those warehouse and that quarry are basically cultural monuments because it's like for almost well, Kamen Rider's having its 50th year anniversary and Super
Yeah.
Sentai is 5. So
Kamen-
yeah. 50
Kamen-
years.
Yeah. Kamen Rider started in 1971.
50 years
Tremendous.
of quarry, 50
You know-
years of warehouse.
Yep.
50 years of quarry.
So yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts? Because if not, I do feel like I kind of feel like I kind of want to watch 7 more episodes of this just to kind of see. I kind of want to see because there are a few multi-parters, so I think a multi-part might be interesting because I bet you that might be where they put some of the budget in.
Then the pacing breaks down.
Yeah. So we'll
Wait.
see. We'll see how that goes.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It's stupid as shit. Oh my god, it's so fucking dumb. But it was fun.
Yeah,
And I enjoyed it.
yeah, I concur. It's really just dumb, but it's fun at the
Yeah.
exact same time.
Yeah. Sometimes dumb is good.
Sometimes
show.
dumb is fun.
It's dumb in the right ways. Like it's not dumb in a way that makes you feel stupid for watching it. It's just kind of like it's just goofy.
I just loved how budget it was. Like that was the thing that really got me. Cause like most of them weren't even sets. They were just like film in a fucking park or like rent out a bike shop for 2 fucking minutes. It was great. It was
That's
so good.
great.
Like hell, this super high-tech car that we keep talking about, I cannot emphasize enough, was just a fucking VW bug.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was Herbie. It was a goddamn Herbie.
Like they couldn't even make it chrome or anything either. It was a silver paint that they used. It was great. I loved it. It's so dumb. It was also really good because the suits couldn't breathe for shit. So every time someone took off their mask, they were drenched in sweat.
That's how it always is because they have multiple suits. Some the suits that are designed for like actually when you're shooting, and then the action suits because the action suits are made normally out of like stuff that breathes. But boy, no one wants to be in the like we gotta film people talking suits for long. They're awful.
My heart goes out to the guy in fucking Dozer because holy shit, it must be hot as hell in there.
And he doesn't get to take it off for scenes either.
No. I mean, it's
For a
like
reason you don't often.
it was really good because like the God episode, the dude was basically decked out in black latex in the middle of the day with a full black helmet too. That was basically just a fucking it was like an aquarium. It was bad. It was so bad. Like the man was so disgustingly sweaty when they removed his helmet via sweet card reader.
You know,
'Cause,
I
like,
think I feel like the show benefits from having the budget that it did because it feels like in a lot of ways it kind of pushed them to make the most use out of the assets that they had.
Oh, I'm not complaining. I feel like it was part of the appeal, honestly. It lends it a certain fucking schlocky charm.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that. I'm just saying, like the fucking the God episode was great because it was just a prototype diving suit, which first off, having no way to get out of it in any capacity is still incredibly unsafe, especially on a 4-hour time limit. Because the guy had 4 hours before he ran out of air. But the way to remove it was a fucking card reader. A card reader! Like, what the fuck? And it was only the helmet that it removed!
Yep.
What a good show.
The folly of man.
Also, actually, really quick, going back to one other thing. The reason I mentioned the weapons and utility thing very early on is because the first episode we watched, the brain destroys the fucking building they're in. And it's great, because it's all tumbling down and lighting on fire. And so you see, like, the woman come in, she's moving rubble, putting out fires, helping people get out, and you see the guy just waving weapons all over the place trying to get through. It's so good. Ugh, I enjoyed the show.
Yeah. All right. Final thoughts.
I think I'm out of gas.
Okay. I think that yes, I think I originally planned this for being a 2-part Media Delta, and I think we'll stick to that. So I
I'm
will
looking forward to part 2.
coming up with 7 more episodes for us to watch. That Nazi episode, definitely up there. So that's one. But yes, before we head out, X, is there anything you want to plug?
Yep. As always, the Autistic Self Advocacy Network is for people with autism by people with autism.
All right, Carnival.
Your local bail funder charity.
All right, Torpo.
Twitch.tv/TorpoTypist and at TorpoTypist on Twitter. And I would like to plug the hole in my funds from my debt to the mob with this cool 10 million yen given to me by a stranger.
I think that was your longest one.
Yeah, maybe.
Possibly. So yeah, obviously the next episode of Media Delta that we're going to do is another episode on Tokyuu Shirei Solbrain. So, and then we'll actually rank it. So, with that, again, thank you all for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to see the list in which we have ranked every single thing we've done for Media Delta, you can go to r3.ldp.life in your browser. If you would like to watch the sister show that determines what could show up on Media Delta, that's Retro Rank Rhapsody, you can watch it live on Twitch at twitch.tv/LoloToPuzzlo or on YouTube at youtube.ldp.life. If you would like to discuss this episode with others, please join our Discord server by going to discord.ldp.life in your browser, which should give you a link. Thank you again for listening.